All right. Hi, everybody. Stand by. We're going to be kicking off our Student Retention Systems webinar here in just a moment or two. We're about 2 minutes early, so give me just a moment here to finish any of these little technical logistics to get us all started here. We're about 2 minutes early, so give me just a moment here. Okay, now I'm hearing myself, so let me fix that. Got it. Okay, wonderful. All right, everybody, stand by for just a few moments. We're getting ready to get kicked off. Thanks so much for joining us. We're about 1 minute early, so stand by for 1 minute. Let me finish all of our sort of technical clicks here to get ready for our presentation. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's see here. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Toby Milroy. I'm the Vice President for AMS and also for Atlas Martial Arts Software and President and Editor-in-Chief for Martial Arts World News Magazine, which basically just means I'm really busy. If we haven't met yet, I'd like to give you just a quick thumbnail on my background, just so you have a sense of why what we're going to be talking about today might be useful for you, and how that's worked in schools all over the country, all over the world, and certainly in my own schools, and that might be able to help you implement these things very quickly in your schools. So, I started my martial arts career in 1979. I've been doing martial arts ever since. I was about 6 years old, so I guess you can do the math. I'm not that old, but certainly I've been passionate about martial arts my entire life. And I started opening martial arts schools and realized that all the experiences that I had teaching martial arts and being a martial artist didn't really prepare me very well for running a martial arts business, for running a martial arts school. And so I embarked upon what you would consider to be, or what I would consider to be, an incredibly deep and thorough study of the martial arts business, successful martial arts business models, the things that were working well in the industry, the things that weren't working well. And through that process, I noticed my own schools really started to take off, right? And so I ended up operating a multi-school organization. I ended up being in charge of 7 locations of my own, grossing somewhere just over $5.2 million a year. And then through some partnerships and some joint ventures and things like that, got into the franchising bit of the martial arts. So we franchised martial arts schools. And I then obviously ran NATMA, the National Association of Professional Martial Artists, for about 7 years, helping school operators in 26 countries around the world grow their businesses. And that was an incredibly fulfilling time in my life. The ability to work with other school operators for me is exactly the same as it was working with a martial arts student. Right? I got to see every day their progress, and I was excited and enthusiastic and motivated and thrilled to see their progress and to help them create a more substantial martial arts school, and in turn help impact and affect more people's lives through the martial arts. So it's the reason I'm so passionate about what I do, and so excited about helping school operators become more and more successful in their martial arts school. So that's just kind of a quick thumbnail on me. Obviously, now I'm leading the team here at AMS to help revolutionize the martial arts business as it applies to services that help school operators save time, make more money, and run a much more smooth, systemized business. When I look back at my own career in this industry and in others, the big differential for me, what made the biggest difference on me, my school's performance, my own performance, is a paradigm shift. A shift from doing it all myself, thinking that I was the only reason that the school could or couldn't be successful, that I was the reason that if I was a better instructor, my students would stay with me longer. If I develop better programs, my students would stay with me longer. I would have a more successful school. And all that is certainly true, but it doesn't scale, right? And my objective was scaling. I wanted, multiple businesses, multiple schools. And so for me, I had to make a fundamental paradigm shift into developing and building and managing systems rather than just being the chief cook and bottle washer, rather than just doing it all myself. I knew I could do it. I know I could do it. it doesn't prove anything, right? Can I help other people to do the same? Can I help other people open, build, operate, and multiply successful schools? And I've proven that over the last almost 15 years to have a very high success rate at doing that. So I'm very excited you've joined us today. That's my mission. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about helping our industry, overtake yoga, for God's sakes, right? There's almost 10 times more yoga practitioners in the US right now than there are martial arts practitioners. And I think that that's a crime, right? What we deliver, what we offer for our customers, what we offer for our students is so much more than just something like a yoga, that we should eclipse all of that. We should have more students in our schools than soccer, right? But we don't today. So I'll be on this mission until we accomplish that objective, right? So that's what I'm all about, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to engage students, how to keep students training in your schools for longer, how to make them happier, healthier, wealthier, wiser, and how to help them have a much more robust experience in our martial arts schools globally, right? And that helps all of us, right? It helps us as business operators, because now we have more customers, we have more students, we can make more money, we can impact more people in our community, and also it impacts everyone that we touch. So I'm so excited and enthusiastic about what we're going to do today. So let's kick off with two logistics. Number one is, if you're on our webinar today, you can scroll down to the bottom of the page that you're looking at, the bottom of the web page, and you'll see a little comment area there. If you have any questions, or if you have any comments, or anything that you want us to address during our presentation today. Oh, I think I've taken that page off. Oh, I see, here it is. Just scroll down to the bottom of the page and you can enter your comments in there. I'll be happy to take a look at them as we're going through our time today. And even if it's off topic, it's okay, stick it in there. I'll try to address the things that are on topic first, but any questions, comments, concerns that you have, feel free to pop them in there and I'll be happy to address them as we move through our time today. So let's see if I can figure out how to show you my screen effectively here. Stand by. We might get sucked into a technical vortex here. Let's see. PowerPoint. Share. Okay, good. I think we've got it. So I think you now should be seeing my screen. I want to walk through a few slides today, just to give you some real sort of concrete, if you want to take some notes, you can do that. It'll be easy to sort of jot things down as we move through our time together today. First, I would like to say that, obviously today we're talking about optimizing your student retention. And this is a primer. It's a 101 course. It's certainly not, I don't want it to be super technical, super sophisticated so that your eyes glass over and you lose interest. But at the same time, we're also talking about some strategies today that are a little bit high level, meaning if you looked at the martial arts industry in general, you'll see a 5, 15, 80 distribution, so to speak. The top 5% of our industry are doing amazingly well, right? If you looked at, the business model that I created, a typical school would grow somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 a year in 22 to 2,500 square feet, right? Many of our clients, many of the folks I work with, many of the folks in my coaching programs and in other programs are grossing well over $1 million a year in a single location. $1 million, 1.2, 1.3 million, 1.5 million in a single location of maybe 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. So those are sort of the highly optimized businesses in our industry. Then the next 15% are really, really good businesses, right? Really, really strong schools. They have great student quality. They have great financial results. Maybe they're not quite grossing, $800,000 a year, but they're doing really, really well. Maybe 30, 40, 50,000 a month, something like that. And then there's the sort of bottom 80%, so to speak. And the bottom 80% of our industry is grossing under $25,000 a month. So most of the schools in our industry, the majority, are grossing less than $25,000 a month, meaning less than $300,000 a year. So what I want to do today is again, we're going to keep our time together today fundamental in nature, right? Fundamental so far as we're not going to be talking about super technical tactics, but the most important 7 things, so to speak, 6 or 7 things that you can be doing right now in your schools to optimize student retention. Okay, so that's what our purpose is for today. The first thing I would suggest, if you were not on our previous webinar, we did another webinar just like this last month, focused on student retention, and we focused on the 12 class commandments. The 12 class management commandments. These were sort of the top 12 things that you must, in my mind, every one of my instructors must do all of these 12 things every class, frankly. And certainly, and actually, they should be able to do that multiple times in each class. But these were sort of the 12 things that that every instructor must be focused on, should be focused on in class, to ensure high-level student retention from a class delivery standpoint, right? From the standpoint of teaching great classes. Now, I don't care what style you teach. I don't care what type of curriculum you're running. I don't care how many years or decades it takes to earn a black belt. What I'm describing in the 12 class commandments is how to effectively manage every class so that it is operating at optimum effectiveness when it comes to class management. When it comes to retention. We're not going to review those today. We spent 90 minutes on it last month. I don't want to bore everybody who attended last month and also today with a review. So if you were not on that call, if you were not on the webinar, and you'd like to review the 12 class commandments, give my guys here a call at the office. It'll take me about an hour to let them know I told you to do this, right? But give my guys a call back at the office, 800-275-1600. Ask for Adrian or Sean or Joe, any of the guys out there. Those are the three guys that'll be most likely to be able to help you. And we'll get you a copy of it, right? We'll send you to where the video is. If you're an AMS member, if you're using Atlas Martial Arts software, you can just go into your MA Biz Academy, and that webinar will be up on the MA Biz Academy within the next few days. So take the time to do that. Again, today we're not going to focus a lot on class management skills. Today we're focused mostly on things that happen outside the classroom, although I'm going to review a couple things inside the classroom as well, if that makes any sense. So if you weren't here for the 12 class commandments, give my guys a call here at the office, and they will walk you through. They'll show you what that's all about. So, number one, how should we know good retention when we see it, right? And if you've seen any of my things, if you've been to any of my seminars, if you're in any of my coaching groups, if I've ever worked with you one-on-one, if you've ever been around my quote stuff for long, you'll probably have seen this chart before. These are basically the essential core statistics in any martial arts school. And we're not going to review them all today. We're just going to review retention. But if you're really certain, if you're really focused on managing your school at a high level, one of the most important things that you can do is make sure that you and everybody in your organization, in my personal view, know exactly how the fundamental components of the school are operating, how effective and efficient they are. And these statistics that you're seeing, from warm lead to intro, you should be converting about 80%. From intro to enrollment, you should be converting about 80%. From enrollment to renewal, you should be converting about 80%. These are the things that you should be measuring in your school to check and see how optimized your systems are. If for some reason your intro to enrollment ratio is 20% or 15% or 18% or 39%, whatever that number is, it gives you a good benchmark to know, well, look, I need to work on this, right? I'm kind of, I'm below where I should be. I really need to work on my intro to enrollment ratio. What am I doing in my introductory lesson that I could be doing better? What can I add to my intro to be able to help more people see the benefit of training? What can I do before the student even comes in for the intro to help pre-frame them for what's going on? Things like that, right? So if you've ever, again, done any of my stuff, it's critically important that you're measuring these fundamental components in your school. The one and only that we're going to focus on for today's purposes is the one to the top right, which is your retention or attrition rate, depending on how you want to measure things. Your retention rate is, the percentage of students that you're keeping every month, and your attrition rate is the percentage that you're losing every month. So, for example, if you have 100 students, 100 active students, and 10 students quit this month, you've, quote, dropped out 10% of your student base, right? 10 of 100. So you should be measuring that on a monthly, if not weekly basis. And there, in my mind, there are actually three metrics here. Number one, there are people who are coming to class and who are current on their payments, right? So this is a quote, quote, active student in my mind is somebody who is coming to class and who is current on their agreement. You also have students who are coming to class and who are not current on their agreements. And you have students who are not current on their agreement and coming to class. And then you have students who are not doing both. I think I may have said one of them twice. I'm sorry about that. But so does that make sense? So for me personally, an active student is only active if they're both attending and they're current on their agreement. If either of the other two things aren't true, if they're not current or they're not attending, I don't consider them to be active. Now, that's more granular than most people do, right? Most people, if they're coming to class, they consider them active. And if they're active on their agreements, they consider that separate, right? Or vice versa. So I'm not going to make a recommendation on that one way or another. I'm just saying if you take your total number of students, if you take your total number of dropouts and you divide by your total number of students, that'll give you what your attrition rate is or your retention rate, depending on how you want to look at it. Does that make sense? So again, if I have 100 active students and I dropped out 4 students this month, I have a 4% dropout rate this month or a 96% retention rate for this month. Make sense? So you need to know what that number is. If you don't know what that number is every month for every month you've ever operated your martial arts school, I would go back and find that out right away, right? I would want to put those numbers together for at least the last few months and see how you're doing, see what really is going on with your retention in your school. Now, I would also recommend that you do everything that you can not to make excuses, right? Meaning, I've interacted with some school operators and in some styles who say, well, I teach XYZ and it's a really hard, difficult style. So we have a lot of dropouts. We force a lot of people to quit because they're just not up to the task, right? And I would say my argument to that would be, I've seen people who are teaching extremely complex and difficult curriculum, but they do it in a way that's so impactful and so compelling to the students, they stick with it, right? So it's a convenient excuse to make that, well, my curriculum is tougher, so I have a higher dropout rate. That's convenient, but you're abdicating responsibility, right? You should take responsibility for why students are dropping out. Don't water your curriculum down, right? Don't teach a less robust style. You might want to, orchestrate your curriculum more appropriately. But the point is, it's about being a better instructor. It's about managing classes better. It's about connecting with students better, more robustly. And that's what we're going to spend our time on today. Okay. So if you're dropping out more than 10% a month, it's a crisis. You're in crisis mode. You're operating more like a fitness club, like a health club, right? If you're dropping out 5% a month, it's okay, right? You're probably in the top 50% of the industry. If you're only dropping out 5% a month, you're in the top probably 50% of the martial arts industry. You should be targeting 3% or better, right? So if you have 100 active students, you should be losing less than 3 a month, right? That should be your target. Now, if you were to contrast that with something like, I like to use educational analogies a lot. If you were to contrast that with education, Harvard University has, I think, something like an 87% graduation rate in 4 years, right? So they're dropping out less than 4% a year. And most martial arts schools can't go from a month to a month without dropping out more than 4%. You know what I'm saying? So we have a lot of work to do in this area in our industry, but just know that, that's what we're spending our time on today. And you should be targeting at least 3% or better. You should be dropping out less than 3% of your students every month. And it will serve you very well. To be focused on that and to be focused on making that a fundamental focus of your time and activity so that you're not just sort of blaming your curriculum or blaming your style because it's so quote, quote, I don't know, street smart or something like that, right? You can teach, I don't know, you can still improve your retention rate regardless of how difficult your curriculum is. So number one for today, like I mentioned earlier, is please go review the 12 class commandments. when you're looking at student retention, the first place you really want to look is the classroom. There's no question about that. I'm going to argue that a little bit in just a moment here, but there are some fundamentals that happen before we get people in class that are important. But there are also some fundamentals that happen in class that are critical, right? So review the 12 class commandments, and then we're going to focus on the rest of those items as we move through our time today. Item number 1, it's 2 on the list, but other than the 12 class commandments, it's number 1 for the day. The first thing is to look at your introductory process and your sales process. This is before that student even has walked in the front door, right? Well, let me say it differently. It's before they become a student and come to their first class. What are the terms of what we've talked to that student about? What do they think that they're quote, quote, buying? What do they think that your school is all about? What do they believe about your program, and how does that impact how long they stick with it? Does that make sense? If they think that your school is analogous to the local gym or health club, and they think what they're doing is enrolling for a block of classes, or they're enrolling for a month, and they make a decision next month about whether they want to enroll again or not, or quit or not. If they think it's like they're paying for access to the facility, like in a health club, then you're sort of predetermining that you're going to have a very high dropout rate, right? Because what they think about on the way in the front door is how they're going to behave once they get there. Does that make sense? Now, certainly we can try to, change what they think about it once we get them in the classroom, and we should, but the fundamental, you've sort of set up the terms of engagement sort of inappropriately, right? So let me describe that one more time in a slightly different terms. When somebody enrolls, again, if we looked at Harvard, for example, if they have an 87% graduation rate in 4 years, most of that was determined at the point of enrollment, right? Those people who enrolled at Harvard, the people who enrolled in the school, the reason that they enrolled was they wanted the degree, right? They certainly wanted the education, don't get me wrong, right? They certainly wanted to accomplish all the things that they're going to accomplish in those 4 years. But they knew going into it that, damn it, I'm sticking with this until I can put that Harvard diploma on my wall, right? And that's what you want people thinking about while they're enrolling in your program. You want them thinking about, you don't want them in the mindset of, oh, well, I'm just taking lessons this month, and maybe I'll take it next month too, but I really don't know what I'm doing after that. I might go do football in the summer or in the fall, right? You want them to be thinking about your thing. They want your program in terms of they're buying, quote, quote, buying a program. They're not paying for lessons. They're not every month trading you $195 for a month of training. They're not trading you, $129 for a month of access to the equipment or access to classes. That tends to be a deleveraged, a less leveraged agreement, a less leveraged psychological condition for that person to be in. Instead, what you want them to be thinking is they're buying a program. They're buying I don't know whether you do contracts or not, I'm not going to argue any of that, but they're buying an X period program, a 12-month program, a blue belt program, a black belt program, whatever the case is. And they're investing every month, they're investing in making payments on the total tuition. It's exactly like a private school, the little, private school that my daughter goes to. The tuition is, $13,000 a year. You pay either $13,000 up front. You can get a little bump off of it if you want to. Otherwise, you pay, $1,500 a month for the 10 months or whatever it is, $1,300 a month for the 10 months or whatever it is, and you're paid off. But never do you think while you're enrolling that student that, well, if I stop going in 3 months, I'm just going to, drop out and stop paying the bill, right? In a private school, you're reserving that seat, and they can never put another student in that seat. Once they give you that space, once they give you that position, it's gone, it's sold, right? So they can't put another student in there halfway through the school year. So again, how aggressive you want to be on that is totally up to you. I just want you to understand that the psychological condition that someone is in when they initially enroll in large part determines how they're going to think about your program long-term and how they're going to behave in that program so far as what happens when they hit a motivational roadblock, when they hit a technical roadblock, they have a difficult chunk of curriculum to get through, they have a motivation downturn, they have a schedule conflict. All of those problems become much less problematic if they're psychologically committed to the outcome, right? So think about that. I'm not going to preach too much on that today, but that is a fundamental. As they're coming in the front door, what they think about you in that process is critically important to how they're going to behave over time. Okay, number next. Looks like we have a few more folks who have jumped on the line with us. Number next, whatever you can, get them to add a family member on, right? If you want to know the absolute best thing you can do for student retention long-term is get them to add another family member. Get them to add mom or dad. If mom or dad are enrolling, get one of the kids to enroll. If one of the children is enrolling, get the sibling to enroll, right? If you can get that family member to add on, they're much more likely to be more successful long-term. They're much more likely to stay longer. I mean, don't think for a minute, by the way, that you should underestimate this impact, right? The reason I'm saying it, everybody knows this. Of course, everybody knows it's a good idea to get the family members to add on, of course. But statistically, I've run the numbers on billing clients. I've run the numbers with coaching clients. I've run the numbers in my own schools. When you have any family member training with either a child or another adult, the chances of them getting to black belt increase by a factor of 5, right? And I think we would all, if you look back at your students, you would all probably agree with me. You know, you've got the family of the Johnsons, who the mom and 3 kids all got their black belt with you. And the dad and 2 kids and a neighbor all got their black belt with you. You know what I'm saying? So the number 2 most important thing that you can do in the process of optimizing your retention is to get somebody to add a family member on. And I'm going to show you a couple of tools here today that'll help you do that. Number next is get a referral, right? So get them to refer the neighbor, get them to refer a buddy, get them to bring a friend into their first intro with them, get them to, while they're sitting with you doing the enrollment, get them to communicate with their buddies, their friends, and tell them what they're doing and get someone else to train with that person. We all would agree, if you have somebody alongside of you who's on the same journey that you are, who's on the same, path, you help each other get to the destination. You help each other stay motivated. You help each other long-term. So again, I think these are very basic 101 strategies, but I want to make sure that we reinforce them quickly today because they are that critical. They're that important. If you did everything else exactly the same as you've always done it, and the only thing you changed was you got 25% of your students to bring a referral or to add a family member on, your retention rate would go up by probably, by at least 5 or 8% per month, right, on average. So it's a hugely important and impactful strategy. So I hope that you take that for what it's worth and you implement that. Number next, and this is what I'm going to spend a bunch of time on today, because this is one of the most wide gaps that I see in my own clients, in the martial arts industry in general, with members and coaching clients alike, is how effective and robust the communication is between you and your customers, you and your students. And of course, when I say your students, I mean the people who are actively training in your school and their families, right? Everybody that they interact with and everybody that they know. And I'm going to, take a brief moment to talk through this today with you. There's a fundamental principle that we all should know because we are it. But there's a fundamental principle that we should all have at the top of our mind in the martial arts industry. Netflix is a great example, right? Netflix has proven beyond any shadow of any doubt the principle that I'm going to describe right now. There's lots of other proof too. All of the stuff that, I've done in internet marketing since 1992 proves this as well. The Harry Potter book series proves this. All of the serial novels, like romance novels, mystery novels, comic books, comic book movies, all of these things prove the concept that I'm going to describe right now. And the concept I'm going to describe right now is that many, if not most, not all, but many of your customers, the people who are currently doing business with you, have a much, much, much greater appetite for consumption of your stuff, of your material, of your classes, of your lessons, then we have the ability to facilitate that consumption. Does that make sense? The people who are training with you in class right now want to hear from you much more frequently, much more robustly than they're probably currently getting in class, right? And let's use the Netflix example. People, Netflix is proven, and HBO and these other networks that have these online delivery services, the binge watching culture, right, is that, when I like, I don't know, Game of Thrones, right? I don't want to wait a week and watch an episode once a week. And I don't want to wait a whole another year before I see the next season, right? Instead, what people do is they block out a weekend, right? And they binge consume this content. They binge consume this material. Now, there's a good side and a bad side to this, right? I'm going to focus on the good side for today. I'm going to mention the bad side. The good side is that what that's telling us is that our customers, the people who are training in our school right now, in large part want to hear from us much more frequently than they currently are. And that means the good news for us is that we can impact their life in a much more deep and rich way, right? Not only that, but that gives us a great opportunity for like upsells and cross-sells and, additional programs that we can launch in our school, ways that we can serve those students, serve those customers at a higher level than perhaps we currently are, right? So let's move into this quickly. Let's talk about effective and robust communication processes. So here's a great example. When a new student starts in your school, think about what their current experience is with you right now, right? When that new student starts, this is somebody who just, came in for their introductory process. You convinced them that your lessons were going to be one of the best things they've ever done in their life. You've convinced them that coming to class 3 times a week is something that's going to help them get fit, help them make the right decisions, help them become more confident, more focused, have a higher level of self-esteem. They believe you so much that they write you a check. They say yes, they buy the program, they invest in the program, and then they start coming to classes 2 times a week. And you do an amazing job. Let's say that you're a phenomenal instructor, and many of you aren't, right? I don't know who you are. I don't know which ones are and which ones aren't, but many in our industry are not, right? So statistically, take the number of people on the call divided by the stat, and that number are not good instructors, right? But let's say that you are. Let's say that everybody on our webinar today is a phenomenal instructor and really loves their students and really is going to, be the best instructor they can be. Even so, what if we did more, right? Even so, when they walk out of our classroom, when they go home, when they're driving home, when they're sitting at their house, when they're on the couch at home, when they're at work at work, when they're at school, whatever the case is, wouldn't it be better if they were consuming our material, if they were impacted by our lessons, impacted by our mindset, impacted by our enthusiasm and our energy and our excitement more frequently? Wouldn't that be better, right? So if they're currently only coming to class 2 times a week, even if it's 3 or even if it's 5 times a week, we're only seeing them for 2 or 3 or 4 hours a week. What if they could be getting our messages? What if they could be listening to our philosophy and understanding the way we see the world every day or a couple times a day or a few times a week, right? Wouldn't that be better, right? So one of the strategies that I highly recommend that you implement and that we really focus on a lot here with Atlas Martial Arts Software is when a new student happens, when a new student enrolls, we should be dropping them into a sequence of communication, email, text message, direct mail, live phone calls, whatever it takes, right? Whatever we can do, where we can deliver to them high-level coaching, high-level information, high-level strategies, high-level life skills, material, content, material that they want, that they need, and that's going to make a big benefit for them. Does that make sense? Now, think about that. If you're a brand new student and you just enrolled in a new program, right? You just spent what you consider to be a significant amount of money. I don't know what that number is for you specifically, but let's say that you just invested $1,000 a month in a program that's going to help you grow your business, right? Well, wouldn't you feel wonderful about making that buying decision if you felt the warm embrace of the service provider, right? If you felt like they were really interested in you and your unique problems, if they felt that like they were really in it with you, right? And that's exactly what you want to do with this kind of communication. Now, obviously, I think you would agree that that could make a huge impact on your student retention. But I'm going to throw in kind of like a bonus factor, right? And the bonus factor is when a new student enrolls in your school, this is the prime opportunity for them to give you a referral, right? So I'm going to try to see if I can manipulate my screen here for a second. So bear with me for just a moment here. I'm going to try to see if I can change the way this works. Okay, I think I have it. Okay, good. So think about that. When a new student is created in your school, they're the most excited that they're likely going to be for a while, right? When a new student jumps into classes, they're excited, man. And now is the time that we should be delivering those messages to them. Oh, by the way, I didn't know if you knew this new student, Mr. Jones, or Johnny Jones, but we have a great referral program in our school, and here are 5 guest passes. I'd like you to give these to your best friends in the neighborhood and invite them to come to class with you this coming Tuesday. And when you do that, we're going to do this activity and this cool, exciting game, and this you'll get this thing, or whatever the case is, right? Whatever you want that to be in your school, but what I want to do, again, when I look back at my own business development, the minute I started thinking systematically about these things, I wanted it to happen every time. Every time a student enrolls, they get this mail package. They get this email on day 1. They get this text message. They get this letter in the mail. They get this flyer handed to them when they walk into class. They get this, right? The minute I started thinking strategically and systematically about that, is the minute that my business started to do so much better, right? So number 1 is when a new student is created, we want to drop them into a sequence. We want to drop them into that type of a robust communication platform to both encourage retention, but also to encourage upgrades. We want to educate them about what the next program might look like. We want to encourage them to bring in a family member, bring in a new friend, whatever the case might be, right? So we have lots and lots and lots and lots of reasons for that. But it's critically important that you understand how much your current students want to hear from you and frankly deserve to hear from you. My personal belief is this. You may have different beliefs. My personal belief is this. I believe the business that I'm really in is in the personal development business, right? When somebody enrolls in one of my schools, when somebody enrolls in one of my programs, of course I want to teach them to defend themselves. One of the most important reasons I want to teach them to defend themselves, because statistically, almost none of my students are ever going to be attacked, statistically, almost none, right? What I really want them to be able to defend themselves from is an over-aggressive boss at the workplace, the ability to assert themselves in the situation where they should assert themselves, the ability to lead their family and lead their team to success, right? These types of things. And that comes from teaching them self-defense. But I want to make sure that I reinforce all those messages too. Sorry I took so long on that, but I wanted to make sure that you understood how important I believe this is. Every time I've seen this implemented, every time students stay longer, they're happier when they come to class. They start walking and talking and acting like you do, right? They start, I really educate my students on high-level leadership skills and high-level character skills. And they start reciting them to you, right? They start really learning and embracing and internalizing what it is that you're teaching because of the higher level of impact that you're having, right? So it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal, and I hope that you take advantage of it. Let me show you a tool really quickly here. As you know, we've been working very hard and diligently on Atlas Martial Arts software. And one of the things that we've done with Atlas is built in a platform to help you do what I'm describing. And I wanted to just quickly show you that. Let me show you my screen. Let me show you this. Okay. you should be seeing my screen. Now, this is Atlas Martial Arts Software. This is the school management platform that we've been developing over here that AMS has been developing for almost 15 years, but we've been redeveloping this version of it for the last few years. I want to take you to this section called Marketing Automation. So I'm going to click that real quick, and that'll open on my Marketing Automation platform. And basically what this is this is the ability to build the sequences that I'm describing, right? This is the sort of, I don't want to say shortcut, but this is the done for you sequence machine that you can execute and implement to be able to handle the types of communication that I'm talking about. So let me show you this first example initially. We originally just talked about when a new student enrolls. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that one open for you. So when a new student enrolls in your program, I want this sequence to pop off, right? I want these things to start happening. So we have all these criterion figured out for you inside the system. So for example, this is an enrollment sequence right here. When a new student enrolls in this program, I'm going to hit edit here, and I'll be able to see what the setting is. So when this student enrolls in the Taekwondo Kids program, right, automatically this stuff is going to start happening for you, right? And let me walk you through just how easy this is to set up. So let's say I want to add a step to that. So I just click the plus button here, and I say, okay, on day 0, the minute somebody enrolls in my program, I want them to get a text message from me that says, hey, thank you so much for enrolling. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited for what we're going to accomplish, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And oh, by the way, don't forget that all of our new students also receive 5 free guest passes worth $497. Please give these to one of your best friends in your neighborhood and, invite them to come to class with you on Tuesday, right? So here's basically how you set that up. You basically open up the marketing automation platform. The status is it's going to be on. It's going to be an email or a text message, depending on what you want to send. Day 0 means instant. So I'm gonna forget that for a minute. Let's say I want to do it on day 6, just as an example, right? And then I can set the time that I want it to go out. Let's say I want it to go out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And the subject line is, hey, Johnny. So I can put Johnny's name in there. So student's first name. So, hey, Johnny, exclamation point. Did you know you can bring a friend? Oh, question, right? And then I might, type my email message. Now this email message is a very nice, lightweight, but robust HTML editor. So you can put raw HTML in here if you want to. You can make a beautifully designed email. We give you a bunch of templates that you can use for this as well. You can just click the source code button and drop raw HTML right into the editor, or you can just format it like this. You can set, different paragraph types, and I mean, you get a lot of really cool tools in here. So let's say I'm just going to make this a headline, like an H1, make this like an H2, whatever. So I might say something like, bring a friend for free, something like this, right? So you get the idea. I can quickly and easily create my email, schedule it, and I just hit, I have a bunch of a template library I can pick from. I forgot to mention, upload photos, upload attachments, kind of whatever you want to do. And then I can hit save. And now you'll see that this will save all this information into my database, and anybody who matches that criteria, anybody who enrolls in my program, in this particular program, you can see on day 6, they're going to get this message at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So again, immediately when somebody enrolls in your program, let me pop back over to my PowerPoint slide here, if I can. Yeah. So immediately when somebody enrolls in your program, they start getting this sequence of contact, this sequence of communication. Many of the things that I like to put into the sequence are little YouTube videos of parent testimonials, people who have been successful in your program and who are telling their story. I like to put in copies of, I think I'm showing you the wrong, I think my Google Hangout thing is not showing you the right thing here for one moment. Pardon me for one moment here. Let me go back to turn off screen sharing and go back to my presentation. Hang on. And that is here, entire screen, share. And now I think you can see my presentation again. So when they get that sequence of contact communication, I can now systematically deliver to them the messages that I want them to get, right? Now, so the next question is, well, what about when student earns another rank, right? What about when a student becomes an orange belt or a green belt or a blue belt or a brown belt or a black belt, whatever the case might be? Well, we have different purposes then, right? We have additional messages that we would want them to get, right? We want them to get the curriculum that's appropriate for their rank. We want them to get, perhaps people aren't eligible for your master club until they're a green belt or until they're a blue belt or whatever the case might be. You can now sequence those types of messages as well based on the rank that they accomplish. So let me again kind of quickly review that. I'll show you how that sort of works inside of Atlas. See if I can get this to switch easy enough. I'm not sure. I think you should be seeing my screen now. Thank you. So we also have a trigger over here on the right for rank promotion. So if this student advances to a specific rank, they can get yet another sequence of communication. So again, I can edit this one. And this one is set up basically if you're in my Taekwondo Kids program and you're Style Tiny Tiger and you achieve the white belt, or perhaps the white belt with a yellow stripe, right? So you can set that sequence up based on that rank criterion as well. So imagine you're delivering your classes for green belts, but at the same time you're delivering those classes, they're also getting at home the first 5 moves of the green belt video, the first 5 self-defense techniques for green belts by video or whatever the case is. The philosophy and the character education lessons that you're delivering for your green belts, they're getting all that while they're at home as well, right? So this is a critically important thing to be doing. People have an enormous amount of appetite for consumption. You want to make sure that you're able to deliver on that. And the more we can deliver those messages while they're not inside the classroom, the more they're going to want to get back in the class, right? The more they're going to want to come back and take the next lesson, especially if you craft the messages that way, right? What if the message said, hey, John, here's the first 5 moves of the forum. This is what we learned in class today. Practice these at home 15 times. And wait until next class. I'm going to show you this really cool technique. You're really going to love that. I'll see you next week, right? See, this is one of the tactics that I've seen in dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of schools that I've helped implement more than 100 times, hundreds of times, that make a big impact on student retention and make a huge impact on student engagement, right? When students come back and they're excited to learn the thing that you told them about, you were going to teach them that day. That's amazingly important, right? So I hope that makes an impact. I hope that resonates with you, and I hope that that you implement that strategy. It's incredibly important, and at the same time, by the way, incredibly valuable to you in the school. So it's totally a win-win, right? So I think we spent enough time on that. Next, again, any questions or comments or concerns or anything like that you've got about what we've accomplished, pop those into the question box down below, and let's see what I have here. There is one question. 90% is no to both questions. Permission slip. Okay, let me address that. Sil Sereno. Not sure if I'm pronouncing your last name. I'm going to get to your question here in a little bit. I have a couple more bits I want to jump in, and then I'll come back and address that one as well. Again, if anybody has any questions or comments about what we're accomplishing today, pop them into the chat area below the page, and we'll prioritize them and tackle them as we move through our time today. So thank you for that, Sil. I'll get to that. Next, obviously we talked about effective and robust communication. So critically important that we're working on that. And you know what? I got to go back. I forgot one item. Let me mention one more bit of this. Sorry. Let me mention one more bit that's really important. In fact, let me do this again too. There is another big fundamental here that I want to make sure that we're thinking about. It's incredibly important. Remember this principle. If you don't want to execute the tactic, I get it, but please remember this principle. In any product or service, especially with what we do, any product or service, the minute somebody buys that product or service, it's very useful and a very important strategy to continue to reinforce with that person the reasons that they bought, the reasons that they invested in the program, and reinforce to them, if we know, reinforce to them that they are in fact getting the benefits that they wanted. Does that make sense? So no matter what it is that you're, selling, no matter what it is that a person invests in, it's a very useful strategy to make sure that we're reinforcing those two things. So think about that in a martial arts school. If Mrs. Jones enrolls her son because he needs some help with his focus, what are you currently doing right now to remind Mrs. Jones every week, every month, every couple of weeks, whatever it is, that, Mrs. Jones, when you enrolled in our program, this is what you were worried about. And by the way, here's what we taught last week that reinforces that lesson. Here's what Johnny has accomplished in class that lets me know that he's making progress in that area. Does that make sense? So think about that systemically. It's difficult to do that one-on-one. You typically do that in a one-on-one environment. But think about that systemically. Here's an analogy that I think is pretty useful. I use it a lot. So if you've heard it before, I'm sorry. But if you've ever spent a lot of time with someone who's either lost or gained a lot of weight, right? Not a lot, but a significant amount of weight, right? Or maybe someone who's losing their hair or some other gradual physical change, right? Getting older, right? Let's use the weight analogy. If you live with somebody, or it's your partner, your spouse, or whatever, or you see them every day or every couple of days, and they gradually lose 3 to 5 pounds a week, right? You don't really notice that on a day-to-day basis, right? It's almost indistinguishable on a day-to-day basis. But if you haven't seen that person for three months or 4 months, and they've lost 20 pounds, 25 pounds, and you see that person a month later, you're like, wow, what have you done? You look great. You look amazing, right? The same thing is happening psychologically with every one of your customers, with every one of your students and their families, right? Every one of the parents who enrolled their child for a reason, which is everybody, the students are making small incremental progress every day. And it's very difficult for the average parent, the average person to notice that, because they're with them every day. They're with them all the time, right? So what you want to make sure that you're doing is constantly reinforcing two things. Number one, constantly reinforcing this is why people enroll in our programs. And number two, these are the benefits you are in fact getting. Does that make sense? Now, we maybe should have talked about this at the beginning of our time today, but if you know anything about me, you cannot lie. You can't be not telling the truth here, right? You've got to be 100% genuine with these folks. But assuming that they know, assuming that they see the great work that you're doing, assuming that they know that that child is making progress, assuming that they themselves know that they're becoming more flexible, assuming that they feel more confident and they see that they feel more confident every day. If you're assuming that, you're making a big mistake, right? Because people don't realize it day to day. And when you're dealing in the family market, what if Mrs. Jones isn't there every day? What if she only drops the child off, once in a while and doesn't sit and watch every class? What if dad at home never comes to class? What if he has to work during that time and he can't come to class? How does he know the benefits that you're getting, the benefits that his child are getting? How does he know the problems that you're solving every day in your school? How does he know? How does grandma know? How do their friends know, right? And in most schools, the bottom 80% of our industry, certainly the bottom 50%, they don't know. There's no mechanism. There are no systems that help reinforce the fact that Johnny is making progress, and these are the reasons that people do get results from our program, right? So you got to fix that. Using these sequences is one mechanism to do that, right? That's one mechanism that you can use to consistently and constantly reinforce and communicate with those families, with the student, with their families, et cetera. Another tool that I believe everybody should be using, and I'm going to show you 3 versions of it, is a type of recurring student newsletter, a type of recurring communication for students that constantly reinforce and show them that they are in fact getting the benefits that they wanted, and they are in fact these are the benefits that we do focus on in our school. So let me pop over and show you a quick example of that. Okay, I think you should be able to see that now. This is called the MA Biz Academy. This is the Martial Arts Business Academy. This is a huge toolbox of resources that we provide for all of our members, all of our Atlas users. And this is an enormous toolbox of ads and promotions that you can be running in the community, door hangers, rack cards, ad cards, artwork for posters and banners and flyers and everything you can imagine, business cards, everything that you can imagine. We do fresh campaigns for all of our schools every month. In fact, depending on the programs that you pick when you become a member, we actually provide up to 5 different campaigns every month. We have a kids campaign, an adult campaign, a campaign for transported after school programs, a campaign for typically fitness or, sort of higher level adult focused programs and things like that as well. So that's what this is all about. One of the things I wanted to show you is something called the MA Times newsletter. So one of the things that we provide for our members every month is a completely done for you student newsletter. And this basically does the 2 things that I was just describing. This reinforces every month. Here is one of the benefits that we offer in our program. Here's one of the things that we focus on in our school, right? And this is how we help teach that. Here's how we help reinforce that. And that then casts in the mind of the student, of their family, oh, I didn't even know that they worked on positive thinking. I didn't even know that they worked on increasing, self-confidence, self-esteem, whatever the case might be, right? So we want to consistently be reinforcing in their mind what it is that we do. Another panel in the newsletter is we do a little traditions thing in each newsletter, which is a kind of a martial arts tradition-y thing, like here's where this style came from, or here's where this came. We really want them to be excited about martial arts, right? Certainly they're excited about your school, but we want them to be lifelong martial artists. And if we can help indoctrinate them into the culture of martial arts, they're going to stay a student with you much longer, right? They're going to be excited about talking about martial arts, and they're going to talk about martial arts with their friends, and it's going to help you in your school a lot. We also have a healthy ways section where we always focus on one of the health benefits of what we're doing and why, and how they should be practicing those things, not only in the school, but at home. And then we also give you, we have a philosophy section, which typically is high level, thinking strategies and things like that for your students. And then we give you a big section in here where you can basically go in and type in your own event calendar. You can edit it, just like this, type in your own events that are coming up in your school, and you're good to go. And then you can email this or mail it to your students. So number 1, there's a student newsletter. Number 2, we also have an adult newsletter, a newsletter that's designed to go to the parents of your after-school program students. So this, again, reinforces everything that we're doing in our after-school programs to the parents. Then third, it's a little crazy. It's a ton of stuff. Third, we also have a newsletter for the students who are in the transported after-school program, if they are, a separate one. And then fourth, we have one called Leader's Edge. Let me find that real quick here. And this is for your teenagers, the students who are in your leadership program per se, depending on how you implement a leadership program. But these are sort of the teen helpers, the people who are assistant instructors, the people who help teach classes occasionally, the people who need to learn about teaching skills, leadership lessons, these types of things. And we have a great Leader's Edge program specifically for that. And we also have promotional material to help you promote that leadership, that program. So here's an example of that Leader's Edge newsletter. And again, these focus on weekly lessons that you are likely already teaching in your classes, but it reinforces to them, hey, if Mrs. Jones picks up the newsletter and takes a look through it, I didn't even know that they worked on, let's see here, on how to simplify the way they think about their material, how they clarify what they're saying to their students, things like that, right? So it's a very, very, very useful tool. And then what I also suggest to all of our members is that they take that newsletter, they break it up into 4 emails, and then they email a 4th of that newsletter every week to all of their students as well. I still recommend that you give them a hard copy, hand it out in class or mail it, whatever you want to do. But I still recommend that you do provide a hard copy as well. This, again, is a great thing to have laying around your students' homes. If Mrs. Jones picks that up, what a great tool for them to be able to see, right? So please do not miss the newsletter, and as a piece of robust communication, please don't miss that opportunity. Okay, so I hope that's useful for you. Number 6, it is critically important, and I know we're coming up on our time, so I'm gonna try to accelerate as we go. It is critically important that you have a very robust and regular systematic testing cycle. Now, there are lots of ways, there are lots of arguments about this throughout our industry. Some schools only test once a year. Some schools test every week, right? I'm not going to make a value judgment, but I'll tell you statistically, when it comes to student retention, especially in the children's market, but even in the adult market, a regular testing cycle, somewhere around 2 to 3 months or so, seems to be the optimal testing cycle for high-level retention. I've seen really good statistics that show me if students aren't quote, quote, seeing some type of regular progress, at least every 2 to 3 months, their excitement level drops off pretty quickly. Now, one can argue it's not my job to, keep them excited, but really it kind of is, right? If you're not excited about what you're doing, you don't want to do it for very long, right? Even if they really want to be a black belt one day. So I think you can have both. I don't think for a minute that you water your curriculum down or that you lower your standards at all. I think almost all of our industry needs to continue to raise their standards, but you can do that in a way that also matches a person's psychological need to feel progress and see progress. So my recommendation is that you have a regular kind of a belt exam cycle somewhere between 2 and 3 months. 7 to 8 weeks seems to be really, really, really good. Anything that stretches over 12 weeks tends to be, I start seeing attrition rate spike. I start to see dropout rate increase as the testing cycle stretches out over longer than 3 months, right? So I think I need to change my screen share here too. I'm going to pop you onto my PowerPoint one more time. Yeah, perfect. So it is important that you have a regular systematic testing cycle. We're not going to spend a ton of time on details on that today. Just know that I personally see, and we see globally, a statistical drop-off, a statistical retention problem if students aren't regularly advancing in some way, typically every 2 to 3 months. Now, that doesn't mean that you again, water your curriculum down, but in some way you want to give everybody a big pat on the back in some robust manner every couple of months or so. And when you look at analogies outside of the martial arts industry, we see that in education. Education has a 9-week cycle, a 9-week testing cycle. Why do they do that? Well, they do that because people's attention span starts to wane after about that period of time, right? And so, we want to use that to our advantage, not be a victim of that, right? So especially early in their training, especially in the first year or two of someone's martial arts training, I think it's critically important that you're running some type of a systematic testing cycle every 2 to 3 months at shortest. Number 7, we're almost there, is from a classroom skills standpoint. You want to make sure that you're empowering your instructors with all the teaching skills, but also all the variety that they need to keep classes fresh and exciting. Now, coming from me as a multi-school operator, I used to go travel around to the individual locations, and I'll tell you what used to make me really mad. We would have an instructor. We used to have instructor training 3 times a week, still do, but have instructor training 3 times a week. Monday morning, we would do half of a business meeting and then half of an instruction meeting, and we would do some drills on Monday morning that the instructors could use in their classes, right? And so we would do, for example, a warm-up activity. And I don't know, whatever it is, let's say it's 10 jumping jacks. I don't know, whatever, but a cool way to do jumping jacks. Well, what would happen is I'd see on Monday at one location that doing the cool 10 jumping jacks. And then I go to another location on Tuesday and see the same warm up, the cool 10 jumping jack warm up. And then I go to a different school on Wednesday, a different one on Thursday, different one on Friday. And I would see the same warm up in every class, in every school. And it really made me mad. And I'll tell you why. It made me mad only because, not that they were doing it because I wanted them to do it, right? We wanted them to use that activity, but because I knew that they were doing it in every class every day all week, right? So that meant if I took 3 classes that week, I had the same warm up like 3 times. Now, nothing wrong with routine. Don't get me wrong, right? But I think we can do better, right? What if there's a better way? What if we would have shown them 4 different ways to do cool jumping jacks as a warm up? And now every class that you went to that week was a different warm up, a different way to do the class, right? So I think that that's critically important. And one of the things that we do, inside of Atlas, inside the Martial Arts Business Academy, is we have a huge library of instructional techniques and tactics, right? So there's a huge library, these videos, a huge library of, here are 15 cool drills that you can teach in class. Here are 10 cool ways to teach a form. Here are cool ways to teach board breaking. Here are really inventive ways to, use praise, correct praise in your classes. Here's how you can correct negative behavior, things like that. A huge library of that stuff for both children, adults, etc. So it's another really good example of how you can leverage these things to keep your instructors really excited. If their instructors are excited, the students are going to be excited, right? So remember to use the MA Biz Academy for that. When you get into Atlas Martial Arts Software, click MA Biz Academy on the left and go to the video section, go to the instruction section, and you'll find, huge amounts of really cool drills and activities that we cycle through so that you can use them in your classes. So again, it's critically important to keep classes nice and fresh. I highly recommend visit the MA Biz Academy once a week with all your staff members, have them review some of those videos, and they can implement those in class that week. Your students will thank you for it. Okay. Number 8, and I think almost finally, it's critically important that you have systematic recognition systems. Now, human beings crave recognition, right? One of the 12 class commandments is always to refer to students by name, right? My rule in my schools is every instructor should say every student's name in every class at least 3 times. Now, realistically, I know that they don't sometimes get it done 3 times, but if the rule is 3 times, they'll certainly get it done once, right? Maybe they'll get it done twice, right? So people crave recognition. It's why we work so hard, right? Every one of us who works like I do, right? Any one of us who works the number of hours that I work and work as hard as we do it because we have a need in our soul, in our spirit, to feel good about what we do, right? Nobody works the number of hours. Nobody works as hard as people like you or I just for the money, right? Nobody. We do it because there's something in our soul that we want to feel good about. We want to feel like we're contributing to our society. We want to feel like we're contributing to the lives of the people that we touch. And they feel the same way. They want to be recognized as well. They have something in their soul. There's a reason that they're doing what they're doing too. So we have to have really robust recognition systems. And I'm sure you have a bunch of them in your school. I'm not going to tell you what's bad or good. I'm just going to say that you should have many of them. I'll give you 3 quick examples. Number 1, it's, I believe, critically important that we recognize students on their birthday, when they have a significant achievement outside of the martial arts school, when they earn A's on their report cards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously inside of Atlas software, we tell you when everybody's birthday is and stuff like that. We want to make sure that you know that. But I want to create also a system when people bring in report cards, they get recognition for every A they get or every improved grade that they get, right? They bring them into the class and they get their high five awards or they get their stars, or whatever the case is, right? I want to make sure that I'm recognizing in class progress on the curriculum that we're teaching. So we have a system called the Star of the Day. Every class, we set a direct goal for that class every day. At the beginning of the class, we tell every student, here's what our goal of the class is. During the class, we regularly point out the people who are accomplishing what we're describing. At the end of the class, we bring up in front of the class the people that we thought showed a great example of that, right? You know, one of the little mechanisms that we use is, you know, something called like a high five award, right? Like we had invented a little sheet of paper that's about this big. It's a quarter of a sheet of paper and has a big high five on it. And we keep a bunch of those stuffed in our uniform. And anytime we catch a student doing something right, we give them that high five award, give them a big high five, and everybody claps their hands, right? When they accomplish 5 of those high five awards, they can turn that in and get a star for their uniform or whatever, something for their attendance card. Some mechanism like that is critically important. Some way that you personally don't have to remember to recognize people when things like that happen. You create a system so that your students hold your instructors accountable for doing it, right? So I hope that makes sense. I know it's pretty rudimentary and pretty, I don't know, fundamental, I guess, but I hope it makes sense, and I hope that it's something that you know can resonate with you. Creating a system to handle this stuff in the class is critically important, right? So I'm going to take a breath and take any questions that you might have. Sil, I'm going to read yours here for just a moment. But any questions or comments that you have about anything we've accomplished today, please feel free to post it in the comment section over here below on the page. I want to show you one more bit on Atlas Martial Arts Software before I get to the questions. But I really appreciate everybody's time today. I'll stay on as long. I'll stay on until every last question is answered. So don't worry about that. But I do want to show you one more feature that lots of our folks are getting a high degree of success with. Give me just a moment. Okay. I wanted to show you quickly what we call our Atlas dashboard. And the dashboard is basically real-time data for you, data that tells you exactly how your school is doing. Now, earlier today, we talked about your statistics, 80, 80, 85% or better, right? We're looking for that 5% or 95% or better retention rate, or 5% or lower attrition rate, depending on how you want to measure it. This dashboard is actually going to show you those stats every day when you log into the system. So this stat over here is showing you what your trial conversion rate is. This school right now is only converting 14% of the people who come in for a trial to actually sign up for a trial. The school is converting 100% of the people who came in to talk about enrolling and actually did enroll. That's fantastic. This school has a 0% upgrade ratio. Obviously, this is just my test data, so it's not real, but you get the idea. And then here's my retention rate. So every time you log into the system, you're going to know of all the people that you have in your class, in your school, how many actually came to class in the last couple of weeks. And then on the right-hand side over here, it's a rating system of how many students have come to class how many times in the last couple of weeks. And you set that up. So an A student for you might be, hey, this student has come to class 3 times in the last 2 weeks, or 2 times in the last 2 weeks. So all the A students are going to be here. A B student might be someone who only came once or twice in the last 2 weeks. A C student might be somebody who came only once. An MIA student is someone who hasn't come at all in the last 2 weeks. So this tool is an amazingly important function. Every day you need to know who hasn't been in class, and we have to be taking action on those people, right? So it's just one of the things that really helps you create better relationships with students, because you actually know what's going on with them. You know when they're not in class. You have the ability to go and take action on those who need help, who need remotivation, who need re-encouragement, whatever the case might be. Okay, cool. So let me again jump off the screen share for a moment. Okay, so again, any questions or comments? Sil, I'm going to read yours right now and address that. Please feel free to post those in the comment section, and I'll address those as we come. Let's see here. We do bring a buddy week, but we also open to coming at other times as well. They require a permission slip and a parent signature, and we ask 2 basic questions. 1, have they ever trained? Or 2, would they be interested? I'm going to say 90% is no to both questions, yet their child attends class and has a great time. Sometimes they come to multiple buddy days, and the parents always say no. How do I address this and get my permission slips to the parents? Okay, a little bit of a tangent, right? Not directly related, I think, to what we're talking about today, but certainly important. 2 things that pop out at me, I think that you may want to take a look at. on a permission slip, I have found it to be better strategy to ask more strategically pointed questions than just, hey, do you want to become a martial arts student? People are afraid to be sold, right? People don't want to be sold. They don't want to feel like they're being sold. All of us know the best salespeople, the best enrollment directors are the ones who never come across as salesy, right? People don't want to be sold. So if I'm asking the question, hey, do you want to do lessons? Most are likely never to say yes. And that's okay. I need to be okay with that. But what if you asked them some different questions? What if you asked them questions about, hey, would you like information about free character enrichment and leadership skills development programs? Yes or no. Just give me a yes checkbox. No box, just a yes box. Would you like more information about confidence building and anti-bullying programs at whatever? Would you like more information about how to become an A student in less time than you thought? Things like that. So now what you're going to get is that parent who's signing the permission slip, you're going to start them thinking about the fact that this just isn't kicking and punching. This isn't just martial arts. This is about other things. It's about other benefits and other wants, right? So I think first I would adjust that strategy. I would add that to your permission slip. Before you ask, hey, do you want to do lessons? I think I would ask, would you like more information about self-esteem, self-confidence building, more information about self-confidence and self-esteem building programs? Yes or no? Just a yes box, no box, just a yes box, right? If they don't check anything, that's fine, but I don't want to put the word no in their head, right? Second, I would ask about something else that you're good at facilitating, confidence building and anti-bullying programs. Would you like more, these types of things? Get them thinking about what you really do in your school, right? Get them engaged in that. And that'll help build what's called yes momentum, right? If they start answering yes to a couple questions, they're much more likely to answer yes to future questions, right? But in addition to that, you're putting into their mind additional benefits, additional things that you can do for them, right? So I would do that. The second thing I would do is we have a very robust pre-follow-up system, during follow-up system, and post-follow-up system for prospects that come through a funnel like that. I would highly recommend that you have an automation sequence like I'm describing for all of these permission slips that you get in. As soon as you get the permission slip in, we put them into the sequence. Immediately, they're going to start getting emails, text messages, calls, things like that, that show them testimonial videos of your current students and the benefits that they've gotten from the program, case studies from people that have done well in your program, things like that. If you start seeding the ground, if you start putting in their mind the reasons that they might want to do this, the benefits that they could get, if you start seeding the ground with that before we ask them to buy, right? I think you'll have a much higher success rate, right? I think you'll see that more people will be open to your sales proposition as they understand what the benefits really are for them, right? So I think those are a couple of tactics that I would highly recommend that you do take. Now, last thing before we go, that was the question that we have. So I'm happy to have handled that. Let me say one more thing. Let me recommend, if you're not, I don't want it to sound like a sales pitch, but if you're not currently using an automation system like I'm describing, if you're not currently using Atlas Martial Arts software, if you're not currently communicating as robustly with your students, with your prospects, with your families as you should be, we can really help make that easy for you, right? We can really help you with that. So give my guys a call here at the office, 800-275-1600. Or if you go below this video on the page that you're on right now, there's a little take a tour button. Click that button, fill out the form on the next page, and you'll be able to take a look at Atlas software for yourself. You'll be able to see if this is something that you think might be able to help you, something that might be able to help save you time, help save you money, help create more new students for you, help create new referrals in your program that you might not be getting today, help students stay with you longer and refer and become lifelong martial artists. These are critically important tools to be executing, to be using for that purpose, right? So I hope that you'll do that. we've really been helping a lot of schools over the last few months really make dramatic improvements in their school. We can also help you drive a lot more traffic in the front door. It's another day. We'll talk about that. But I hope that's all useful for you. So if there are no other questions, we will convene for the day, which I think actually lines up well because just outside my window, they're building the new version of I-4, Interstate 4 in Florida, and they're getting ready to drive some pilings in next door. They were kind enough to wait until after 2 o'clock to do it for me. So I'm glad that we didn't have to contend with the noise. So any other questions that you might have, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'll address them and I'll send you an email directly later. Please give my team a call here at 800-725-1600. Ask them about Atlas or click the try a tour button and you can see for yourself. I don't want you to take my word for it. You can see for yourself how much this can help you with your retention and with growing your martial arts school. So thanks again so much for your time. I really sincerely appreciate it. You'll get a follow-up email from me in a little bit. Thank you for your time, and we'll speak next time. See you soon.